Being a part of home church, one of the things that I love most is the teaching from the Bible. The other thing is the people. The people there make you feel at home. So because we feel at home, I thought about that I needed to invite people to this new church. I am not a big Facebook post person. I normally don't share a lot of things. And so God told me to share one of the first things that Kenny had sent out to on my Facebook. And I hit the share button and hit share now. Little did I know what hitting that button would mean. So our launch Sunday was very exciting, and people were bustling around, and I looked up and there was Tara walking through the door. And I immediately went over to her, welcomed her, and she stood there for a minute and she said, "Oh my goodness, that song means something to me."
Before Mark and I moved down here, I had looked into getting plugged into a church. We looked at a lot of churches. We probably visited, 6 or 7 different churches, and none of them were the right fit. Pam shared a Facebook post about home churches launching. And it intrigued me because it was a new church and it was a new launch. And I thought it was something that was kind of exciting. And I trusted Pam, and I knew Pam's heart, and I knew what Pam was about. So I knew that I could trust that post. The blessing was playing, so the band wasn't playing, but there was background music and it was a blessing. And that song just became kind of the anthem of our hearts before we moved down here, because we moved down here to be with our children and all that kind of stuff. So that was just, God spoke to me through that and through Pam's hug. And then I sat through the service and I was mesmerized. Like, Kenny's teaching was just so inspirational, so truthful, so biblically based. So I left that service and I came home and I told Mark that I found our church. So we went the next Saturday at 4:00, and it was it. That was it. We were home. We knew that was a place that God had led us to, that we were really going to be, that we were going to grow and stay connected to. And Mark's now working the cameras, and Pam and I are leading a home group, a women's home group here, and it's just been such a great experience. Yeah, so my neighbor Whitney and I had actually connected before I had moved down here through Facebook because of the blessing again. So that was also something that had been on her heart. But I honestly never really thought to invite Whitney because I knew that she had kind of a church of her own. They were traveling a little bit further. And one Saturday morning, I just texted her and I said, "Hey, Mark is on camera and I'm alone. Would you like to come and keep me company?" Yeah, so the first night that Whitney came, I knew she was coming and I waited at the door for her and I saw her pulling up and I ran out and I gave her a hug. And I think that's actually the first time that I've ever hugged Whitney, interestingly enough. But there was something that we shared together, and Whitney even had said to me afterwards, she said, "That's the warmest welcome that I've ever had at a church." And I think she felt that not only from me, but I think from a lot of other people there as well.
Matt and I were in Maryland for 6 years, and we just felt like God was telling us to move back to North Carolina. So we decided to move March of 2020. And we moved down and lived with my parents for a while, and of course everything went down. Church was not happening in person, so it was really tough because we knew that our kids were at these ages that really needed to be solid at church. We knew that. We were both saved young and grew up in church, and we knew the importance of getting our kids in church. Plus we needed it, but we really, really were thinking a lot about them. So we had decided we're gonna go to Pursuit on whatever, I can't remember what Sunday it was, but on a Sunday, we're gonna do this and we're gonna commit to doing something in Denver. Well, that Saturday, my daughter had soccer, and I sat down to watch her play soccer, and I got a text message from my neighbor, Tara, and she just said, "Would you like to keep me company tonight or tomorrow at church? And Mark's not gonna be there, and he'll be taking the video, so would you sit with me?" And I remember thinking, it wasn't strange. I mean, we had text back and forth, but I remember thinking, this is different. And I remember kind of in my head thinking there was a decision. I was like, I could definitely come up with things to say not to go. Not that I would, but and But I said, I kind of did it out of, I'm gonna be a good neighbor. So I said yes. And we had gone to Pursuit that morning, and I went to home church by myself that night. I kind of went in thinking, I'm not gonna like this. I'm not gonna like this. It's gonna be great, and this is great for them, and Tara and Mark are awesome with Startup Church, and I know they have great personalities for it. They're gonna do awesome at this, but I'm just going because I'm a good neighbor. And so I get there, I sit down, and I start liking it. And I'm like, Whitney, you already have a plan. You're doing this, but I just kept on and just loved it. And I remember leaving and just praying and thinking, Lord, okay, what do you want from us? Because Matt and I want to be purposeful. We want to do what you want us to do. So Nat and I decided to bring the kids, and they were excited. I didn't want to switch the kids around with churches a ton because they had so much change in the last year that I was kind of like trusting that God would say, this is it. So we went, and they absolutely loved it. The kids, they were so excited. So for a few weeks, they started staying they stayed for both services a couple times, and then we started just going to the 4 o'clock service, and Haven, my oldest, was actually really sad when she couldn't stay for both services.
I knew one of the things that God was calling me to do was to lead a home group for women. And Tara had contacted, or we had had conversations about starting a women's ministry, and so which led us to this home group.
Yeah, and it's really been such a blessing just to be able to host everybody here and to have all these women just gather in my home that really are just looking to grow closer to the Lord and closer to each other and just form community.
I understand how one invitation can affect someone else, and how one invitation can lead to something else or can affect someone else's life.
And I'm just so grateful for that invitation from Pam, because it's really been such a blessing to both my husband and my life, just being part of home church. And Whitney and I had already had an established relationship, and just extending that invitation to Whitney, they were looking for a home, and they found home. So that's been really special for me.
And I just have to say, before Tara and Mark even moved in to our neighborhood, I had a special feeling about this house, and I prayed over your house a lot. And I knew that God was going to put someone next to me that was going to felt like home, and it does feel like home. And so I really appreciate the invitation from both of you, and it's felt really warm, and I've needed that invitation to be welcomed into a group of ladies, and also my husband's needed that, and my children have needed that. And so it's just obvious how God is working through that, and how God's going to change Denver by inviting people one invitation at a time.